around late May, early June, when I was flying for Lakeland Airways in North Bay, Ontario, that the Star in Toronto newspaper called me up and asked me if I would pick up their photographer, who had a cottage about 6 miles down the lake from our base, and fly him down to Mattawa to take photographs of a plane smash that had occurred there around 4 o'clock that morning. It was a Sunday morning, and it was all mystery too at the time. I got the other pen out and I taxied down the lake in the dark, practically. I went and knocked this fellow up. His name was Kevin Moore. He was a professional photographer in North Bay who did these odd jobs for the Star on call. Alerted him into the aeroplane, and we took off against roughly a 20-mile-an-hour wind by that time. The wind had got up a little bit. We flew down to Mattawa, which was some 40 miles to the east of us. Now, to go to Mattawa, you can either follow a river right down, or you can follow the road, or you can follow a railway. They all run parallel. And when we'd gone about 15 miles down the road, Kevin Moore actually drew our attention to the fact that ahead of us there was some object in the sky which was bronze-coloured, and I thought at the time rather shaped of a pear. And he said that is obviously the helicopter belonging to the Telegram. They had one in the area somewhere. So I thought it was too. And the other thing I worried about then was that when we got round to Mattawa, I had to be very careful not to hit a stationary object in the air. And while I was thinking that, we came to a point halfway to Mattawa where the road and the road and the river go straight down, but the railway diverges down to a small town. I've forgotten its name after all this length of time. That's 4 miles down and 4 miles back in a big loop. This object in front of me then left the direct route to Mattawa and followed the railway line down. So I said, well, when it comes back, I'm going to be pretty close to it. And by that time, he had to fly this extra 10 miles, say, and consequently, when he did come back and catch up the line again parallel with the road net, we were very, very close to it. And then I saw at once that it wasn't a helicopter, it was just a big bronze ball-shaped object which was flying at our speed, against our speed being about 70, 75 in that category again, flying against the wind, which is against all common sense. It couldn't have been a balloon or anything like that because it was going the wrong way to the wind. So I said it's UFO, and Moore agreed, and we decided to get a photograph quickly. So we undid the top window of the cub, which latches on the top wing, and undid the bottom window, which just hangs down, and he got all those pictures shot. In the meantime, I climbed above it, and in climbing above it, we were able to see that it was solid, and it did block the fever as it passed. And it wasn't very, very big. I don't think it was very, very huge from the distance we were away. I would say it wasn't any more than 15, 20 feet round, but it's hard to be sure. Then when Moore was ready, I started to come down on a bit of a turning dive on it, and in a very second we started with a turning dive on it. It just contacted a silver pinpoint of light and was gone. Very brilliant little silver pinpoint. It remained for maybe 2 seconds. That was it. There's nothing else there. The other one was 3 years later or so, or maybe it was more than that. I got interested in prospecting, and I was operating on my own at that time with a little Cub aircraft. And I heard of a copper strike at Loch Elch, living in North Bay still, so I flew up to Loch Elch, which is about 400 miles northwest of North Bay on the CN, I think it was, line, near Châtelet. And I picked up a man in the village of Loch Elch to help me as a guide, and then we flew into a little lake about 6 miles behind Loch Elch, where we spent the day staking. And that night, it was a very, very nice summer's night, around about July, early July, and the sun up there never seems to go completely down. There's always a glow in the high sky there. We were sitting around the campfire just before around midnight, and I happened to notice to my right, that would be to the south, a red light just above the trees, and I said to him, what is that warning light? I thought it was a radio tower or something, and he said, no, there's no light there. shouldn't be there. And then it started to move. I saw it was facing us, I saw it, but it could be a distance away. It started to move towards us, and it came very, very fast towards us, not much over the trees, apparently. When it got dead opposite, it stopped, absolutely dead. So from then, it was still this glowing red light. And then you could see in the light, there was sufficient light to see a vacuum-shaped body, and there were 4 or 5 flashing portholes or something like that, which were flashing a very brilliant, I would say cold, white light out of it. And the other end of it was probably, if it was half a mile away as I thought, it would be about 100 feet long, or maybe a bit more. The other end of it was all the colours of the rainbow pulsating out of it like heat. There was green and orange and yellow and red, and it was really quite extraordinary. Well, as we stood and watched it, I yelled UFO to him, and the other fellow agreed with me, and as we stood and watched it, it kind of reared up slightly on one angle, and it went away at an angle of about 45 degrees upwards in a northeasterly direction. It had been travelling south-north, and it moved and went off northeasterly, climbing, and it went off, it started fairly slowly for the first second, then it went terribly fast, and 2 seconds later it was gone completely. So when we got back after we finished our station the day after to Lockhouse, we talked to the people down in Lockhouse, and quite a few of them had seen the same thing, and it was quite a talk about it. So when I got back from Australia a couple of days later, I reported to the RCAF as a very good sighting with lots of witnesses. We had given the names of some of them. And then that was the end of it as far as I was concerned, except that that weekend my boy came home. He'd just joined the Air Force, and he'd been from Camp Borden to Barry to a show. And after the show at 11 o'clock, they got the bus back to Camp Borden, and they were walking around Camp Borden to the barracks around midnight. I think he had 5 companions, as far as I remember now, and they saw exactly the same phenomena as I had seen up at Loch Elf, which is, I would say, between the two places, would be 500 to 700 miles apart. And he reported it right away the next morning to the RCAF at Barry, so there were 2 different reports on the thing, and neither place knew the other reported it, and we never heard another word about it, but we came to the conclusion between ourselves that there must have been a tremendous long way out in space. But of course it could have just moved very fast and appeared again, but I think it's unlikely that 2 members of the same family would see the same thing like that unless it was way out in space. It was a real mystery because it couldn't have been a meteor because it went upwards, and the meteor in the atmosphere cannot go upwards again. And that's what it did do. When it came to us, the speed it appeared to be coming at over the trees was what I was expecting, the CF-100 we'd been travelling at, because I was used to seeing the CF-100s all day long. It appeared to be that speed, but if it was way out in space, I had no idea. But when it went away, its speed was fantastic as it went away. And it stopped suddenly, and it went away at a fantastic speed from a standing start. First second wasn't all that fast, but it was pretty fast. And the next 2 or 3 seconds, just out of this world, there's nothing that goes as fast except a rocket.